You're tuned into the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla and Andrew Yagi. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go.
It's episode 79 of the It's Real podcast. I'm Kayla and I'm a mortgage lender.
And I'm Andrew Yagi. I'm a real estate agent.
Hello Andy.
Kayla.
Where are you at today?
I am at an airport in an undisclosed location. I'm doing a little traveling. I'm out on the road just for a day, doing a little contract flying work, doing a jet trip, and kind of on my way home. So sorry for the background noise. It's kind of hard to find a quiet place, but always important to make time for this.
Amen.
And regardless of the location.
I kind of like it. It's like we're following you along with your flight journeys. And I mean, I think if you did this from the air, you'd probably get in trouble. But that'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't think that would be permissible, but it would be cool. And actually, a lot of people are, like grabbing onto like the Starlink technology just because they're making, better products that are more accessible for like Wi-Fi in the air. Actually, I could have hopped on a Sun Country flight and been home a little bit quicker today, but I had this commitment with you that I was going to honor. And also I wanted to fly Delta for Wi-Fi because then again, I can get work done.
100%. Delta's worth it. Delta's so worth it for Wi-Fi. So
it is.
I hear you. Well, thank you for taking time for the podcast.
Yeah, my pleasure. How's your week going?
It's good. It's picking up. It's heating up. People are, it's not just, apps coming in. It's people getting into contract. It's busy. It's starting to warm up in Fargo, in terms of like the weather. We've had some hits and misses in terms of like warm weather, but I feel like kids are getting out of school. Like summer mode is officially on.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I'm loving it. We're loving it in our house, except, one of the problems is, I was just talking to one of a gentleman who works in the office suite next to me and just talking about how everyone just exhausted every day, kids and even, parents, just because it's like, hey, the days are longer, the weather's nicer, and, we're staying up, a little bit later. And so it's just, it's a little bit more challenging in that regard, and, just kind of prioritizing, what you need to get done because there's so many things to do, especially with nice weather.
Oh, yes. Do you let the kids stay up later in the summer?
We do. We're pretty strict about like 7:30 bedtime, but it does get pushed out a little bit. Just again, as we're having activities or having friends over or traveling or spending time at the lake, and it kind of is what it is.
Gosh, I wish someone would tell me to go to bed at 7. Life would be a lot earlier mornings, I tell you what.
I absolutely love it. 7, 8, getting to bed and then just getting up and really taking on the day, especially like when there are no kids up, when nobody is emailing you or calling you or anything. I really kind of follow Craig Ballantyne's, like he calls it his, what does he call it? Like his millionaire, like morning routine, whatever. And it isn't, he said, no, we're not going to do the 5 a.m. club. We're not going to do yoga. We're not going to meditate or do any of those things. We're going to kind of adapt the dairy farmer mindset because he grew up in Canada and on a farm.
Okay.
And so the mindset is, hey, the farmer gets up in the morning, the cows need to be milked. The cows don't care if you want to do yoga or if you want to meditate or if you want to read or, affirmations, whatever it is. The cows want to get milk, so get out there and milk the cows, and then you can do whatever ritual you want later. And just kind of applying that to business and life. Like, hey, what is one of your most important tasks? So like for him, he was writing a book. So he'd get up right away and he'd write 90 minutes for 90 minutes every day. And so I'm trying to do that. It's kind of hard with all of the digital distractions, but like with anything, some days are better than others. Just like going to the gym, Kayla, some workouts are better than others, and so on.
I like that though, because so many people probably, do their affirmations, all these things, but you get after it right away, and then the hard tasks are done with. So you got the rest of the day ahead of you.
For sure.
Question for you: what is your favorite time of the day? Sorry, I'm catching you off.
Yeah, no, my favorite time of the day, I think, is the early morning. I mean, ideally, I get up, between 2:30 and 4. I mean, I maybe sleep until 4:30, just staying up a little bit later. But,
Amen.
I would say kind of like 3 to 5 a.m. That's kind of my
Yeah.
favorite time because, again, it's quiet, it's peaceful,
Mhm.
it's easy to get things done. You're refreshed, re-energized. How
Yeah.
about you?
I normally that's what I would say, but lately I've been really just enjoying when all the dogs are in bed and I'm like, and they're all cuddling me at like 10 at night. Like that moment of everyone is safe, tucked in, they've had their dinner. I really love that, but it's also quiet too. It's just like you're kind of settling down, but there is something about being up before the rest of the world gets up.
Mhm.
So,
Right on. I was going to say, I'm glad that works for you. To me, that sounds awful, especially being covered by 4 dogs. But
oh my gosh, try it. Come over. Well, it's like a weighted blanket. It's amazing. Like, oh, yeah,
right. I do love animals. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah.
I just don't know that I would want 4 in my bed
How
because
many?
I
How
think
many
that
do you
I
have?
think that we have 0 animals. We've got a dog at daycare when the girls go to daycare, and that's sufficient.
Oh, okay. Amen. I hear you.
So, Kayla, what's going on in the world of mortgage, and
Mhm.
what are you seeing out there? I saw
Yep.
this that you had passed along,
Yep.
talking about the biggest daily drop for mortgage rates in over a month. Talk about that a little bit.
One of the things that people don't see is like, we don't post every time rates go up and down and up and down. And so overall, like we're seeing, yeah, a 30-year average right now is 6.87, let's say. And at the end of the day, yes, we're seeing rates improve. But here's the thing. If you're not in contract, if you don't have a purchase agreement, you can't lock on nothing, right? Like you need to be able to lock in now. And so I can't preach it enough that like timing the market is so hard. But this is super amazing news for those that are in contract, can lock this. We're locking in probably 5 or 6 people today. It makes sense for them. But it says biggest daily drop for mortgage rates in over a month. But again, you don't see the ticks up and down. And ultimately, though, it's good news and positive energy, and that gets people talking again and having conversations. So we saw more apps come in today, and we're seeing a lot of conversions too. We're seeing a lot of people finding homes. I'm seeing a lot of people that maybe they were really picky before, and now they're like, you know what? My heart's been broken too many times. I'm going in with a strong offer. Like, I'm not going to, willy-nilly this. So we're seeing a lot of conversions. My team is. And whether that's related to the rates or not, it's been really, good positive momentum forward.
Good, good. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that. Are you seeing any clients? So, like, I look at our market, and I'm working with a potential new client who's coming to town, and actually, maybe you might be working with that client as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Um, so, we're sitting here and we're looking at the markets, and one of the big problems in my more immediate market is we just don't have a lot of inventory. We don't have
Right.
anyone really doing new construction. It's challenging, and so we were talking about that. And then I have, some clients as well that are looking kind of in the starter range in our community, kind of that $200,000 to $300,000 range.
Yeah.
And getting beat out, like Kayla, I would think it's like 2022 or 2023. We're getting beat out by 6 other offers,
Mm-hmm.
which, is just, it's disheartening, and it's kind of, sick a little bit at the same time, just because it's like, wow, like there shouldn't be such harsh competition for someone who wants to buy a home, who's well qualified, who has little to no
Mm-hmm.
contingencies other than financing, not get into a home. Are you seeing that at all in the Fargo market, like in any price point, or given all of the new construction? Not really.
It's probably not as heavy as it is there because we do have new construction. Even for first-time buyers, they can build within their range. And I think that, we're still seeing it depending on the price point. But I also think that clients are having that ability for new construction, just opens up more opportunity. And I think too, like I said, what I've been saying is people are like, I'm going in strong. I'm going in strong. And so what I've seen on my end is a lot of clients not wanting to sell their homes prior so that they're not contingent on their home selling. So I've seen more of that, Andy, than I have ever. It's, hey, Kayla, we want to get pre-qualified, but we don't want to have to sell our house. Like the goal is going to be to sell it, but we don't want to have to. That then provides a stronger pre-approval letter so that when you're the seller, you're like, okay, I don't have to wait for this person to sell. So I've seen a ton of that. And then just it's not as heavy, I would say, is probably your market in terms of multiple offers.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, it just gets very frustrating, and
Oh yeah.
I don't think there's an end in sight. I was just pulling up really quick. It made me think of a Realtor.com article, understanding the housing supply gap, and just it talked about really prices are going to increase because inventory is really tight overall, and it talks about the fact that the U.S. is short about 4 million homes, and at the current pace, it talks about how long it's going to take, to kind of catch up to that, and it kind of depends on the area. The South, it looks like, has the largest housing gap, 1.5 million short. The Midwest, though, Kayla, look at this. The Midwest and Northeast face the greatest hurdles. While the South is making strides, other regions are falling behind. In the Midwest, at the current pace of construction, the Midwest, it would take us 41 years to close the housing gap.
Oh my gosh.
Limited new development, a larger existing gap, and outdated zoning laws are contributing to that. In the West, they say it would take 6.5 years to catch up. But wow, I was kind of shocked when I saw that article, because it's like, okay, I knew it was bad, and obviously, it's not as bad like in Fargo as it is in Fergus Falls.
Yeah.
But just as a whole, it's super challenging. What do you make of that?
Shocked. I didn't have any idea that that's like the difference between, did they say where the South is? Did they, in that article, did they share like where, like, cause I just feel like it probably depends too. Like you just said, Midwest, Fargo is going to be a lot different than Thief River, Fergus Falls, places like that. But I'm kind of shocked by that. 41 years. Wow. Like, yeah, that's crazy.
No, I know. So, I mean, we're looking, and, my team and I, we built one spec house just to, again, kind of test the consumer, the market, the regulatory environment, the contractors. Lots of challenges with it. We completed it. There were a lot of wins. We had even more setbacks, actually, on this new build. The sewer line failed, due to some unfortunate, I think, lack of oversight, lack of communication. Which I'm not going to go into deeper right now, as we're kind of trying to work through that. But it's also frustrating for those of us who are trying to help bridge that gap, and then we're hitting having issues with that. But that's a totally different issue. But I just thought that would be really kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
To share.
Well, and we are seeing a lot of new construction, constant new construction, and like first-time home buyers to repeat to, and I feel like a lot of these clients, that once they build a home, that's all they want to do again. They don't want to live in an existing home. So, and there's still a lot of land to be had here. So Fargo's growing, West Fargo's growing, and now it's blending into Horace. So, I mean, it's a totally different market here, even between here and Grand Forks.
Yeah, absolutely. Kayla, I want to flip the narrative, because even though we talked about, hey, we've got such a big shortfall of homes and supply and everything, I want to talk a little bit about this recent article, or this recent post, I should say, citing some stats. Tristan Ahumada, didn't you get to present at one of his events or something?
Yeah, SocialCon 2022, 2023 in LA.
Cool.
So yeah, I got to meet him. He's a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, so I followed Tristan. He's kind of, I think, the CEO of Lab Coat Agents is the company. And I mean, they're a really great technology provider, and just fun to read some of his stuff. But so even though we talk about, kind of that Realtor.com article talking about, the housing supply gap, we also are experiencing some unique things in the market. So even though we talk about, like in my market, hey, people are getting beat out in multiple offers, it's happening in your market in certain price points and areas. Nationwide, there are nearly 500,000 more sellers than buyers out there estimated in the market. So it's estimated, again, there are about 1.9 million sellers and 1.4 million buyers. And what does that mean, Kayla?
I mean, I think that this is an opportunity for some buyers in general. Like when you look at this graph, like I cannot help but my eyeballs are drawn to 2021, 2020. Look at that. Like, hello. Like, look at the difference of buyers compared to sellers. And then now see where we're at. It's like, you know what? And we say it all the time, but you can never renegotiate the price that you pay for a home. You can always renegotiate the rate that you're in or the term you're in. And I think that this graph is, spot on for showing, my goodness, look, it's 500,000 more sellers. Now, again, Tristan comments in cities like Miami and Austin, it's like that gap is massive. I don't know what it's like in Fargo, but, or your area, Andy, but I mean, I think that buyers have an opportunity here.
Yeah, I think so. And we're seeing it. And, obviously, Kayla, as a lender, you work with buyers, really just buyers, although some of those buyers are sellers too. Although you don't generally get that involved in the process, minus what does it look like net wise and timing. But like in our office, we predominantly work with sellers and in marketing their homes and work with a lot fewer buyers. So it's created kind of some unique issues. And even I look at, the kind of year we're having, and our team's having a great year. We had a tremendous May. But even going forward, as I look, just because we're working with some of these sellers, we have a good number of listings, but we have some that are not selling. And again, because I think there are a lack of buyers out there, especially as I look, we're very heavy in Lakeshore. And I think there are a lot of people that are sitting on the sidelines. So even though, we talked about the article, Kayla, where, hey, we just saw a huge drop, there are a lot of people that obviously are buying a lake property as a second home. And as a result, they're probably paying a higher rate. Like what on average, I mean, if this is the national average for a 30-year fix for a primary residence, what would on average like a second home look like?
A little over 7. I've got a client right now. They're putting a good chunk down, but they're right a little over 7.
Okay.
Not terrible.
So not huge, but I think there are a lot of people that again are sitting by the wayside, and they're just kind of waiting to see what happens in the economy. Where are things going? Is it a good year for them to buy? Isn't it? Yeah. I think a lot of people are sitting and waiting. And even, Kayla, these stats from Redx, a technology provider that we use, they've got kind of a market snapshot nationally. On average, homes are spending about 102 days on the market before they go under contract. That's compared to what usually is about 72 days. 38% of listings had price cuts, highlighting shifting leverage to buyers even as inventory rises. 9% of homes out there are relisted because an agent doesn't get it sold the first time. They get frustrated, they change course, they work with another agent. And they even highlight a couple of tips here, Kayla, which I think are good. So for buyers, just knowing that 38% of homes have prices, 9% are relisted, and the average days on market are 102, really to encourage buyers to submit offers below list after the home is sitting for more than 30 days. And even on the selling side, just, telling sellers like, hey, it really makes sense to maybe price your home ahead of the market a little bit. So, we're going to look at comparables. We are going to, see what is the market value of your home. But then, hey, we need to look at other similar homes and kind of look at some market stats. And depending on their objectives, if they want to be successful, we may have to price it ahead of the market a little bit.
Well, and also if you're buying a house and you have a house to sell, your house not selling is going to prevent you from buying. And I've got for the first time, Andy, I've got a client right now and they're set to close June 30th and their current house hasn't sold. And so now it's like, that's a domino effect. And then, they get discouraged and it's all hand in hand for sure. And so if your house can't sell, you don't want 2 mortgage payments normally. So I'm seeing a little bit of that lately too.
And as you and your team are working with some of these people and, they're just, it's almost a science. It's a delicate process, especially when you have these dependencies. Does it ever cause you anxiety? And, do you sit up at night after you put your puppies to sleep and they're laying on top of you? Do you sit up and do you have anxiety over deals and about what if this, what if that? Or are you able to kind of set it aside?
No, I have anxiety all the time with my deals. Like I will wake up at night because it's people's homes, right? Like it's a big deal. And what I've noticed lately, maybe I'm going to go off on a different topic here, but what I notice is like a lot of things get blamed on the lender because we're like, oh, well, you have to do this to get that. Or, we're handling all the fees, even though they're not our fees. And, there's so much that I feel like the lender has to kind of, handle that. I just try to make sure that the client has such a good experience that when it's out of my control, I still get a little anxious because at the end of the day, it's just a house and, no one died, but it's just such a big deal. And so my brain's always working in a sense of, okay, what if we do this? Or what if we did that? Well, what if they, didn't sell, but then we went, non-contingent, and then they did sell, and my brain's always going. There's usually always a way to figure something out in banking and mortgage, but I mean, yeah, I'm anxious totally. What about you? I mean, do you stay up at night, Andy, thinking about your deals?
Kayla, I couldn't stay up at night if I wanted to. My wife would say, once my head hits the pillow, I'm out generally. But so I will say I used to a lot. Like when I first got into the business, and a big part of it was just because I was so worried about messing up a deal for someone, and because again, it's a big deal for people, and worried about even just things that I had no control over. For the most part, honestly, no, I don't have a lot of anxiety anymore. And I don't, because I really, especially as I've kind of learned and I've grown, because I really didn't have any training at all. I mean, a little bit, but not great training. And so I had to go out in kind of the school of hard knocks and kind of figure it out, or at least that's the path I chose to take. And so as a result, I've really learned and really, again, you have something happen. It's like, okay, well, we learned from that. We're not going to let that happen. And again, it's like nothing is really that big of a deal for the most part. Like you say, generally it's, nobody died. I just thought of a graphic that I saw, and I've got to share this, Kayla, because
Please do.
You would appreciate it. And I think everyone that probably watches the podcast would too, but everything is blanking fixable.
Yep.
Right? Everything is fixable. And I think that's that graphic, when I saw it, I'm not even sure we're on social media, but it really resonated with me, because all too often, we get so worked up, and it reminds me of the book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And it's all small stuff. So I think communication is a big piece. I always tell clients that, hey, we're going to work really hard to get in front of any issue that may arise, and, head the issue off at the pass. So before it even becomes an issue. But then communication is key. Like if something is wrong, we're not going to hide it. We're going to go. I mean, certainly we need to make sure we've done our due diligence before we come and just throw something at a client. But no, I would say I really don't get anxiety, because at the end of the day, it generally isn't anything that we've done, or if it is, we own it.
Well, right. And I think too, I was listening to, do you remember Laguna Beach? Like,
I do remember Laguna Beach.
So Kristen Cavallari has an amazing podcast. She's just so raw. I was listening this morning. She just cracked me up. And she's like, was talking about how ultimately she has done some like psychotherapy. And she's like, anytime something bad happens or things don't go my way, I've changed my mindset to say, this is for the best, something better is going to happen. And she's like, ever since I've been like trained to do that, she gave a few examples of things that have happened in her life. And she's like, I don't stress about it. I don't freak out about it. And she's like, you can freak out about the simplest things or the biggest things. And what good does it do? But yet we still do it. But really, it really is a mindset shift. And someone had said to me, they're like, you can't be anxious and grateful at the same time. And I've thought about that too, is like, what are you grateful for? Like, before we hopped on, you're like, how you doing, KK? And I'm like, oh, I'm good. Like, it's busy. And it's like, we get stressed about the blessings, you get stressed about, oh my gosh, our water bill's so much because we're watering our lawn that we wanted, or I had to pay a bill because we had to fix the roof that we wanted, or, we have to work late because we've got all these deals that we wanted. And so when you really look at like the things in your life that sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but if you look at the things in your life that are your stressors, like they're actually blessings just in disguise. So anyway, Kristen Cavallari has a great podcast. Listen to it because she cracks. Noted.
Don't give me any more ideas, because I like too many podcasts and self-help and other books, and go down too many different rabbit holes. So I'm kind of trying to detox from that, because it's, I'm sure it is good. But Kayla, when do you have time to listen to something like that?
When I'm curling my hair in the morning, Andy.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Hey, so speaking of, jumping back maybe for a minute to real estate, we talk a lot about all the blessings, and we talk about, the tumult and the issues that, we face in our markets, or we've talked in the past about even like in Horace, like special assessments and the like. I appreciate you sharing this article, and it makes me think that life could always be worse. Kayla, we could be in Florida, right?
We could. Yeah. I mean, Things in Florida are just a little bit, seem to be shifting a little bit. So this article was very interesting. I've got clients that bought a condo in Florida, and no joke, Andy, like a couple months later, hit by a hurricane. And right now, this article says, people were moving down there in 2020, 21, rates were low. You could work remote, work anywhere. So you were getting a really great rate. Life was good. You had a lot of Trump supporters moving down there. You were with your tribe. And then all of a sudden, hurricanes are occurring, in a force that we've never seen. Insurance policies are through the roof. Now we're seeing rates increase a bit, and affordability is a struggle now. And I think that there's even some people that are having trouble selling their condos or their homes because of that. And if you can't get insurance on a home, or you're paying through the roof for it, that's a hard sell. And if you're a buyer looking to purchase a home, you're probably asking, what's your insurance? And I think there's a lot of clients that were probably a lot of homeowners that are sitting on these houses at one point sitting pretty, and now they're a bit concerned. So this article, it resonated with me because I have clients that are kind of feeling that right now in Florida.
Yeah, right on. You're cutting out just a little bit, so I think your connection's maybe slightly weak or something, or maybe it's on my end, but I think I got the gist of that. But yeah, no, it's unfortunate to see. But even down in Arizona, I knew some people who went down to Arizona to look at properties recently, and who had been looking in prior years. And boy, it's one of those things that, right now you can almost have your pick of the litter. They have real estate agents calling them saying, "Hey, make an offer," which goes hand in hand, kind of with that the Red X recommendations that we just talked about. But yeah, it's very interesting. I would predict that Florida, that things probably are going to continue to get worse before they get better. But just really, I liked kind of the sub headline there, Kayla, where we talked about the Sunshine State has a grim warning for America's home buyers, and just talking about like, hey, this could happen in your backyard as well.
Well, and I think too, what's a hard pill to swallow is buying a property, and if it gets hit every year by a hurricane, like what a pain, especially, whether it's your current home or a rental. That's some conversations I've been having with clients. They're like, I don't know if we want to buy down there. What if that happens every year? We saw, 2 big systems come through last year, and it's risky, but it's the truth. And then I have a loan officer friend down there, and he said, down here in the Southeast, we are seeing our business flat out. The market is really soft. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, Florida, Texas, South Carolina, Colorado are seeing some scary signs of inventory slipping and prices. So I don't know what that's going to lead to, but that's just interesting how every market is so different, right? Like that's just a telltale sign. So I guess we'll see what happens in those states.
Yeah. No, it is really, really, really interesting. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where we're at the end of the year, Kayla, where rates are at.
For sure.
Where, home volume is, and what the market's looking like. And I think a lot of people, like I was having some conversations the other day, Kayla, with some individuals, some leads that were coming through some of our funnels, kind of as a result of some of our online video marketing. And I visited with a couple who they were talking about buying. And Kayla, you'd be really proud of me for this, because they reached out. They're like, "Hey, let's go look at some homes this weekend." And I said, "Okay, I'd love to get you through the door, Kayla. I'd love to get you through the door, but hey, I've got a couple of questions first. Just want to get to know you a little bit. When's a good time to call?" And a lot of people today just want to text. Like I even look in the last 5 years, like 5 years ago, when we'd run some of our video ads for properties, I could get people on the phone all the time. It is so hard to get people to pick up their phone today. So a lot of people just want to text, and it's like, we can't really set up a showing before we have a conversation over a phone. So delightful couple. We had a great conversation, and in the end, they were visiting with a lender to get pre-approved, and we're going to follow up with me before we looked at anything, because I said, hey, before we go look, Kayla, we need to make sure that we're pre-approved. So they were reaching out to a lender of their choice, and we were going to reconvene. They kind of reached out to me and said, hey, on second thought, we're really not in a great spot, to buy right now. We're going to just put this on hold, but hey, we really appreciate your guidance and taking the time to talk to us. So, it makes me wonder, Kayla, how many people are, neglecting, how many agents are neglecting that very simple very powerful and meaningful conversation, and just going and showing houses and wasting everybody's time, sellers, their own, the individuals who are looking.
I think that the agents that are incredible like you, Andy, are the ones that are realizing like you can't create more time, and time is precious. And if you do things the right way and just take a beat, like we talked about in our last podcast, like just have a conversation, hop on a call, do your due diligence. And I'm not saying take a week to get pre-approved, but just like talk to a lender for like a couple days, have the plan, because I think there's a lot of consumers, Andy, that come into their pre-approval, their pre-qual, their lender meeting, and they think they know all the answers. And truthfully, our team, we strategize. There's things that you might not even know about, like paying off debt or taking out, a different line of credit to pay things off to afford more over here. And so our job is to not like be this like all great and mighty, loan officer. It's like, how do we make your goals and your dreams achievable? How do we do that without breaking the bank and spending more? And so I think the clients that just take a little bit of time to do that, like these clients were probably shocked by the payment, if I had to guess. That's what I see. And so that's probably something they never thought of. And so that just saved you time, the seller's time, so many people's time. And the lender now maybe puts them on a plan to achieve their hopeful, budgets and dreams, maybe in 6 months, maybe in 12 months. But nobody wants to get someone in a home and feel bad about it. I sure don't.
Right. No, right on. Yeah, and I think it is. Sorry, you're cutting out still a little bit. So I don't know. Like I said, maybe an issue on mine, maybe an issue on your Wi-Fi part. Can you see me coming through okay?
I can see you right now.
Yeah, okay. Well, since we're having a few technical issues, I want to wrap things up, even though there are a few more things I want to talk about. But maybe one thing before we go, Kayla. There's an event coming up in Fargo next week.
Yes.
The Hatch Summit. Have you bought your ticket yet?
I haven't bought my ticket yet.
You have?
But I haven't yet, but you have, right?
I have bought my ticket. Absolutely. So I will say, okay, so I know I've gotten to know Eric Hatch a little bit here and kind of through some of his events and some other things. And honestly, the event that he puts on in Fargo is a really tremendous event, not just for people in real estate or in mortgage, Kayla, but just for people in general. Like, it's fun. There are so many different individuals, who are in leadership roles around the community, from attorneys to funeral directors, people who are in home building, which I guess is real estate focused. I've seen some people in agriculture. Gary Thoroldsen's coming, who is a big hotel magnate in North Dakota, among other people. So I would say, hey, like, if you want to grow and learn and be around some positive, great energy, come to the Hatch Summit in Fargo, because it's awesome. And Kayla, you better be there, or I'm going to come down to your office and I'm gonna drag you downtown Fargo.
I love it. I actually have it blocked off on my calendar. I've got a golf tournament the 16th. I'm like, how am I going to make this work? So I've got to talk to my loan officer assistant, make sure she can handle it. So once I do that,
you need to delegate to elevate, Kayla. Delegate to elevate.
Delegate to elevate, Andy.
So, yeah. Well, Kayla, that wraps up episode 79. I think a lot of great information, and we'll look forward to seeing how the summer market continues to evolve. And as always, if I or Kayla can be a resource, please reach out to us. Otherwise, Kayla, have a great rest of the week.
I will if you will. Bye.
See ya.